Writing about pop stars as a musical journalist. But of course, it didn't take him long to start making his own headlines with this string of hits.
I made you feel second best. I'm so sorry I was blind. You were always on my mind. You were always on my mind. Life is peaceful there. There can be comfort there. Where the skies are blue. This is what we're gonna do.
Brilliant. What have I done to deserve this? It's Neil Tennant here, live and kicking early in the morning.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning. Lovely to see you, because it is a rare sight. You don't do many interviews, do you?
Yeah, particularly not before 9 o'clock in the morning.
No, exactly. So it's a rare privilege. Now, looking back, I know I felt very nostalgic looking at that sort of 3 hits we had there amongst the string of them. Do you feel nostalgic looking back at that?
I do, yeah. I mean, the first couple were over 10 years ago, and it makes you realise how long we've been doing this for.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem that long, that's the thing, you know. It's sort of all flashed by, really.
And you haven't changed that much either, have you?
Well,
appearance-wise.
the hair's changed a bit, but that's about it, really.
Yeah, and Chris still looks the same. Chris never does interviews, does he?
Chris very rarely does. One of the first interviews we ever did was on breakfast television, and Chris fell asleep live on the television.
Oh, no. Well, don't you do that on me, otherwise you could put me out of a job.
No,
That'll be a dreadful thing to do. So, are you still together, obviously? Are you doing anything at the moment?
Yeah, we're doing 2 things. We've been working on a musical for the last year and a half with the playwright Jonathan Harvey, who had a film out a couple of years ago called Beautiful Thing. He's had 3 or 4 plays in the West End. And we finished the first draft, so we're working on that, and that will be performed, I hope, next year. But with theatre, it takes a long time. It's a lot longer to bring out a record. And also, we're just about to start working on a new album.
Right, and you're here this morning because you've already co-executive produced, have to give you your right title, an album. Tell us about that. Yeah,
the album's called 20th Century Blues, The Songs of Noel Coward. And it's, well, as it says, it's an album of songs by Noel Coward. It's done by the best of British pop stars from the last, I don't know, 30 or 40 years. We've got Paul McCartney, and Robbie Williams, and The Divine Comedy, Brian Ferry, Sting, Elton John,
and
Pet Shop Boys, Shola Ama,
which we're going to see right now,
actually.
Oh, great. Someday I'll Find You, Shola Ama, which is already in the charts, isn't it? 28,
it
I
is,
think
it charted this week.
Yeah,
and of course, Shola won the award for Best Female Singer at the Brits this year.
Yeah, she did.
Which was very exciting, because when we first started to do it, she was a very new artist, and now she seems like she's sort of established.
Yeah, was it difficult to get people? You said you asked Shola amongst others, but what, because Noel Coward at first, Noel Coward songs, you don't immediately think, oh, there's a great hit on our hands there, do you really?
Well, our starting point was that Noel Coward was the first British pop star. He was the first British guy to come along to write his own songs as well as plays, to establish this incredible image of the sort of bow tie, the dressing gown, the cigarette holder, and he was famous all around the world as a kind of idea of a British sophisticated man. And he wrote all these fantastic songs which really haven't dated. A lot of the music from the 20s or 30s or 40s is probably just dated now, but Noel Coward, like Cole Porter in America, the songs are so strong you can update them. And so with the album we tried to find people who were somehow in a tradition of Noel Coward, who were theatrical or witty, or had a sense of style, or a sense of irony or humour in their music. And it's that sort of strand of pop music rather than the kind of rock and roll strand that we've got on the album.
Divine Comedy comes to mind when you say theatrical.
Divine Comedy, Neil Hannon, the singer, is a big fan of Noel Coward.
And what track are they singing?
They've done I've Been to a Marvellous Party.
We're going to see it now.
Okay.
You know, if you had any mind at all, Gibbon's divine decline and fall, well, it sounds pretty flimsy, no more than a whimsy, by way of contrast on Wednesday last. I went to a marvelous party, witnesses and success,
Divine Comedy, another group on the album. I've been to a marvellous party, and Paul McCartney wanted to be at the party on this album, didn't he? Tell us how he got in touch with you, didn't he? Begging to be on it.
Well, no. Paul, I have a house in Sussex quite near Paul McCartney, and I'd mentioned it to him and I'd seen him once. And one Sunday afternoon, I bicycled over to see him on his farm, and we talked through it, and he said yes, he would do it. Yeah. And I think he was keen because he knew all about Noel Coward. The Beatles actually met Noel Coward several times in the early 60s. They used to go to the same parties. And also I think he wanted to do it because it's a charity album. It's for the Red Hot AIDS Trust. And I think AIDS is still an issue nowadays. There's been wonderful news in the last 2 years in the West, but the Red Hot AIDS Trust that the album is for finances a lot of projects all around the world, the developing world particularly, that are to do with education to stop people getting HIV or AIDS. I think that's a very important cause too.
I do too. And the album 20th Century Blues, it is out now. Neil Tennant, it's a sin, but we're out of time. Lovely to see you this morning. Thanks for coming in. Thank you.
And the time has reached 26 minutes past 7.